know if we have anyone from the Committee on Solidarity? Have we heard?
Is there anybody on there?
Not in the audience.
I haven't seen it, not
No.
on Zoom yet.
Not in Zoom, not in the audience.
Good evening. The time is 7 p.m. and I will now call this meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. The first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you all please rise? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. The next item on tonight's agenda is the approval of minutes from our regular meeting of August 16th.
I'll make a motion to approve them.
I'll second that.
Thank you both. Any errors, changes, or omissions?
I want to, go ahead. Yeah, good. Yeah. I was just going to say, I commend Sharon for a great job.
Oh.
Because there was a lot of talking last time.
Thank you, Sharon. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. All right, the next item is the acceptance of tonight's agenda. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to accept the agenda.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Is there a change to?
I'd like to add one item. I did mention to some of you before the meeting, I've been thinking a lot about the discussion and the vote we had on the school facilities report last time, and I would just like to add that as an item on old business, just to have a brief discussion, if possible, about that.
Okay, so we'll make a new D.
Make it D?
And we'll do it after appointments.
Yeah, make it D.
So, and we'll, school facilities. So, Ralph, would you change your?
I will like to put a motion forward to accept the agenda with the requested amendment.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. All right, and I'm actually, I think I'm going to go up to the podium for this because we have a couple VIPs in the audience this evening, and we have a proclamation on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, and we also have our state representative, Christy Carpino, here as well. So I'm going to come up and I'll present, and Christy, you want to come up as well? And so we have a couple proclamations for you both here, and
We can say that tonight you two are top dogs.
so come on up, Andrea and Christy. So for those of you who don't know, Andrea and Alan over here, but they are the owners of Top Dog in Portland, Connecticut, and have been for the past 43 years. And this Saturday will be the last day of being in business in the town, but we have a new owner as well, and the legacy of Top Dog is going to continue. And I know the board, everyone here, the town, we're so happy for you both that you're able to enjoy your retirement, well deserved. And we will miss you in town. You leave behind quite the legacy here. And so on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, I'm going to read this proclamation for you both. And so this says, Proclamation, Andrea and Alan Spalding. Whereas Andrea and Alan Spalding, owners of the beloved Top Dog hot dog food truck, have served the Portland community with dedication, passion, and a sense of humor for the past 43 years, with a menu of hot dogs, chips, and soda that has remained affordable and cherished by all. And whereas their legendary hot dog and bun-colored Airstream trailer has been a local marvel for generations, making memories at its location on Route 66 near the old Connecticut Central Railroad Depot. And whereas the Spaldings' passion and dedication to their craft earned them recognition on both local media and national TV shows, and this Friday, I believe, on Channel 3, such as Road Food, bringing Portland's culinary delights to a broader audience. And whereas Andrea Spalding's pioneering spirit paved the way for women in the food truck business, setting an example for future generations of entrepreneurs. And whereas Andrea and Alan Spalding have decided to embark on a well-deserved retirement, marking the end of an era as they pass the torch to Marissa and Travis Puida, entrusting them with the legacy of Top Dog Hot Dog. And now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Ryan J. Curley, first selectman of the town of Portland, Connecticut, hereby deem it an honor and pleasure to extend our deepest gratitude and admiration for Andrea and Alan Spalding and their unwavering commitment to the Portland community. We applaud your devotion and hard work and congratulate you on your retirement. Best wishes in the next chapter of life, presented on this 23rd day of September in the year 2023 by Ryan J. Curley, First Selectman, John H. Dillon, Michael S. Hernandez, Robert W. Hetrick Jr., Sean P. Manning, Michael A. Pelton, and Ralph R. Zampano. Congratulations. I'm going to turn it over to Christy here.
So Senator Needleman and I want to tell you how much you will be missed. Every time each of us went there, there was always a smile. It didn't matter how busy it was. It didn't matter what the temperature was. And you did more than make people in Portland happy, but everybody in Connecticut knows that this is where Top Dog lives. And Top Dog will live beyond you, but Top Dog was only here because of you. And to your 43 years that you gave back to the town, that you gave back to the community, and you really made a place on the map for Portland. You are nationally known, and we are forever grateful. So on behalf of Senator Needleman and I'd like to present you both with a citation. Your 43 years in business in the Portland community, your hard work and dedication has brought people together from far and wide and has cemented the Top Dog Hot Dog stand as an icon in our region. We wish you the very best in your well-deserved retirement, and thank you for all of the wonderful and delicious memories.
Why don't we get a quick picture with the whole board and Christy is, so why don't we maybe get a picture right up here? And
Thank you all. Congratulations.
Thank you, Ryan.
Nice to see you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everything.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
for thinking of
Thank you
us.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have fun on your retirement.
Yes, thank you.
I feel like I'm gonna sit on a whoopee cushion.
That is cool.
That is cool.
All right. So it's not every day that happens. 43 years.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't realize it was that long. That's amazing.
Long time. I know.
See?
No, I wasn't even born.
Wow.
Had to do that, right?
Throw that one.
Had to throw that out there.
So the next item under communications and correspondence, I did receive a letter, as you all did this morning, from Superintendent Dr. Britton. And this is notifying us of another round of potential grant funding that is available specifically for HVAC improvements. And I wanted to bring this to you because Dr. Britton and myself, we talked about this yesterday. It is a very tight time window where we would have to apply and have funding and have the match secured by December 31st. So it's a lot for a little period of time. And there are some additional questions that I know I had before we move forward on actually having more in-depth conversations. But Dr. Britton did say that he would like to attend a Board of Selectmen meeting in the foreseeable future to discuss this. And so I will make that happen. There is some, I did copy you on that email that I replied to, just as far as some additional questions So more to come on this, but I did want to bring this up under communications and correspondence.
Now, that would be HVAC, it's not limited to one particular school, we can use that
It's not.
system-wide?
But the recommendation is with the potential bonding, in all likelihood, we will be bonding for the elementary schools. So the focus here is on the secondary schools, which also need work as identified in the Sightlines report and by Fryer. And so by tackling some of the work at the secondary schools through this, we would be able to potentially get that match from the state, which is not eligible for reimbursement if we just were to bond that on the secondary school. So it's a way that we could leverage our dollars,
Yep.
if we can make it work, but there's a lot more questions on that still. So more to come on that, but I did want to bring that to your attention. And with that, we will move to item 6 this evening, which is public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to comment? Okay. We will move on. Under old business, it's our second meeting of the month, which means that it is our monthly report from the Committee on Solidarity. And I do see, I believe Hope Jones is here with us on Zoom. Hope, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
Good. Do you have the report for us this month?
I do.
Awesome.
We met last week on September 12th at the Senior Center and also on Zoom B. There were 5 of us there and 2 members of the public. And we discussed the library presentation that happened on Monday, Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. And we had approximately 50 attendees, which was more than we expected. And the facilitators were Christy Billings, a librarian from Middletown, and Rich Holland, a Portland resident and founder of Free Center in Middletown. And also, I want to thank you, Ryan, for your support, for being there. Thank you. We are continuing to work on a Spanish version of the resources brochure with emails going to the school principals for inclusion in their newsletters. That's for the English version at this point. We're planning another Pride event. The fanning stages will be in October for a possible event in November. The Juneteenth committee started their monthly meetings again with requests for sponsors from some of the organizations that were involved last year. And support was offered from the library with an application to help us with an application for Connecticut Humanities. And our suggestion was discussed about hosting at the high school this year, where we'd have the outside area and if it rained or if it was too hot, we could go inside. And then, you know, we're gonna be in touch with, actually Liz is gonna be in touch with the school on that. We're continuing our outreach to local organizations and institutions with possible collaboration with the Historical Society for September. We're planning on submitting a monthly blurb to the River East about our meetings with suggestions of having presentations from our committee at town events with the hope of generating more participation and possible new members. And we voted in our quarterly person and note taker, Liz Elizabeth Avino as chairperson, Nancy Goodwin is co-chair, and Glenn Eason is note taker. And the last thing I have is that we wanted to put something up, see if we could put something up on the town website, a banner for Hispanic Heritage Month, which we're in the midst of now. So that's, I guess, I don't know if we asked you first or just go to Dave or how that works.
Yeah, I mean, permission granted, just send the email to Dave and copy me, but that's not a problem. We'll get that up there.
Okay,
Great.
that's pretty much, everything.
Great. Thank you, Hope, and thank you again. I do want to add that I did attend that meeting on the uncomfortable conversations with the black man on Monday evening, and both Christy and Rich, who ran the event, it was, not only was it well attended, but it was a really, really great event. And it was funny because it started at 6:30, and I think it was scheduled to be over at 7:30, but it was 8 o'clock and the library was closing, and no one wanted to leave. They were having, you know, it was really educational, and it was a great event. So thank you, Hope, and thank you to the committee for all that. And you guys have a lot of work that you're doing. You're very busy, so thank you for that.
And that was part of like a continuation of the Juneteenth, because we had the book giveaways that the treasure hunt, which Caroline Murray had set up, and she was also very helpful in doing this portion as well, the library portion. And Jennifer, of course, was a big help as well.
Thank you. Awesome. Great work. All right. So with that, we can move on to the next item under old business is the cooperation agreement between the town of Portland and Portland Housing Authority. Now, you may recall at our last meeting, we spent some time talking about this and talking about what this would do as far as the housing authority goes. Remember, we had the attorney for the housing authority, as well as our executive director, and also members of the Housing Authority Commission were there as well. And so, as I mentioned at the time, you know, I was just having our town attorney go through the agreement just to make sure that everything was good with our town attorney, and that's why we didn't take a vote at the last meeting. But that work has been completed, and we do feel comfortable that this is in the best interest of both the town of Portland and the Housing Authority. And so this is an amendment to the original agreement that we had with the Housing Authority. And as was explained to us the last time, that this will allow the Housing Authority to essentially leverage the property that we have at our Chatham Court property, and they can take out loans now against the equity with this, against the equity in the property, in order to fix up the property. Whereas before, all that equity was tied up. And so this allows the Housing Authority to act as an LLC and to oversee that. So that is what this is about. And as Alan mentioned last time, this is the way it seems a lot of housing authorities are going these days, because HUD only provides a fixed amount of funding every year for capital improvements, and most of the time it's not nearly enough for what is needed. So this will free up some resources so that they can better and improve the area. Does anybody have any questions? Or
I think they were answered last meeting.
So what are you looking for here? I mean, obviously, we have the agreement and we have a resolution. So we
yeah,
need the resolution.
Just need the resolution. Yeah.
I will read the resolution.
Sure.
Resolution, Board of Selectmen, Town of Portland, Connecticut, September 20th, 2023. Resolved that the Board of Selectmen hereby authorizes First Selectman Ryan J. Curley to execute and deliver in the name of and on behalf of the Town of Portland an amendment to a cooperation agreement with Portland Housing Authority, 9 Chatham Court, Portland, Connecticut, in the form attached hereto for the purpose of continuing payments in lieu of taxes, pilot, as defined in the cooperation agreement now and after 9 Chatham Court is transferred to its not-for-profit instrumentality, Portland Communities, Inc., and therefore, as long as 9 Chatham Court continues to be owned by Portland Housing Authority or its instrumentality, and as long as the property is used for the purpose of low-income family housing.
I'll second that.
Great. Thank you both. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all. The next item is item C under old business, appointments, reappointments to boards and commissions. Any appointments?
We have nothing.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to item D under old business, excuse me, and this was
That's me.
John? That is you.
I will say that everybody tonight has water, because I needed it. I learned my lesson last week. I cut the lawn just before I came, and I would have spoken more last week, but my allergies are killing me, and my throat was closing up. So I just sitting here drinking my water and realized, what did I do this afternoon before I came? I cut the lawn again, so. Well, let's see, we'll get through this. I wrote this down. I'll be honest with you, I actually got home after the meeting last week and started writing, because I was just struggling with that whole discussion. So I wanted to put it back on the agenda tonight, just to put out my points and see if maybe there's anything else we can do. So as you'll recall, and as the most recent edition of the River East made very clear, I was the sole vote in favor of accepting the School Facilities Study Committee report at our last meeting. Being that I was the odd man out on the issue, I thought long and hard about putting it back on this agenda tonight. Our time is important. However, it's rare that we're out of sync on a vote, and I feel like I wouldn't be doing my due diligence if I said nothing. Actually, I began gathering and writing down my thoughts and concerns when I returned home after our last meeting and had the majority of this statement drafted within a few days. For sake of transparency, I acknowledge that there were a few letters to the editor on this topic in last Friday's River East. And while those letters may have outlined concerns similar to mine, I want to let you all know that tonight I'm expressing my own opinions and concerns, which I obviously compiled and finalized long before those letters were ever published. In a nutshell, I think the action of the board at our last meeting to not accept the School Facilities Study Committee report is problematic. And to appreciate where I'm coming from, I thought it would be helpful for you to understand my thought process. I spent 35 years with the state of Connecticut in the Office of Child Support Services. I started out as an investigator, and then I progressed through supervision and management, and ended my career as a director of the statewide program. The Office of Child Support Services is the agency that oversees and administers the establishment and collection of child support in Connecticut. The program strictly adheres to federal law and Connecticut general statutes, and is highly successful because of the due diligence of its investigators and court officers who seek out and gather precise evidence for presentation to a court magistrate. And only with that sufficient data, if it's clear, convincing, and accurate, can the court deliver an informed decision. I'm telling you a bit about my background, not to bore you or to toot my own horn, and it's not political, trust me, but rather to demonstrate how my career shaped who I am as a problem solver and a decision maker. It's through rule following, the use of consistent processes, and the gathering of as much valid data as possible where informed decisions are made. Over the years, I've developed the habit of periodically stepping back for a bird's eye view of a problem to ensure that I'm letting the data drive the process rather than my personal opinion. I guess this is why I've spoken repeatedly about using this detailed data gathering from the school study committee as a foundation for a possible survey of Portland residents, and why I keep harping on the fact that it's critical that we educate everyone to the greatest extent possible so a truly informed decision can be made. As I once again reviewed the school facilities study report, along with all the data gathered by the committee and the informed decisions that they made based on the accumulated evidence that they gathered, I couldn't help but compare their process to what I used to do. The School Facilities Study Committee report represents the due diligence of its members. They sought out and distilled the best available data. They ensured that they fully understood and complied with all applicable regulations and laws, and they presented the whole of their data in a detailed report that could be used in the process of making an informed decision. I view the School Study Committee report as a sound end product, built on a great deal of hard work and detailed analysis. There have also been some expenditures to get where we are now. Not included the costs that we may expend for a survey. Thus far, the process of getting this data and figuring out what we're going to do is about $100,000. $30,000 on a study authorized by the Board of Education in 2020, the Sightlines report, and $70,000 for analysis by that committee from Fryer Architectural Firm. I think we all agree that certain aspects of the report are lacking. And I think we can also agree that elements of the report may need to be modified or enhanced before a final proposal is crafted and put before Portland's voters. Furthermore, it has been my belief that this board can accept the committee report and can conduct a professionally developed survey, which includes a facility study committee report findings as a foundation for discussion. The report and the survey are not mutually exclusive. Both can work together to gain a successful outcome. Did the committee chairman's letter that was presented to this board, was it an ultimatum of sorts? It was. The bigger question for me, however, is whether this board had to act on that matter in a similar fashion. And quite honestly, that's the reason I voted in favor last week, because my answer back then and my answer now is no, we didn't have to act in the same fashion. When two members of this board were also members of the School Facilities Study Committee and noted at our last meeting that they voted to approve the plan as members of that committee, but could not now accept the plan in its entirety, shouldn't that have been a red flag to this board that some flexibility was required in wording our motion to achieve a successful result? What message does the action of this board send to those who participated on the School Facilities Study Committee? What message does it send to residents who may be asked to volunteer for similar committees in the future? In my opinion, this board missed an opportunity for leadership excellence. The inclination to push back at the committee chairman's letter with a similar all-or-nothing motion did us no favors. It did no favors for the committee that dedicated 2 years of hard work to that issue, and it does no favors for Portland citizens who should have access to all available information to make an informed decision. In response to the chairman's letter, this board should have recognized the need to craft a motion with compromised language. And now comes my water. And I'm almost done, we won't be long. Such language would have allowed us to graciously accept the school study committee report with conditions, with recognition that before a final written proposal is submitted to Portland voters for approval, additional critical details may become available. The will of Portland citizens may become more apparent, and certain elements of the report may require modifications and/or enhancements. Now, it was at this point that tonight I was going to offer a proposed motion to consider how we do this. But my research, and I wanted to do this because I realized this, if I did something like this and proposed it, it was critically important that I got it right. I researched Robert's Rules of Order to try to find the appropriate vehicle for such action. You can amend things, you can rescind things, you can reconsider things, and there's other options. But I couldn't find anything that would work for this thing. In addition, as I was going through and looking at protocols and processes, it got me thinking. And I honestly, I didn't do any digging, but I bet you we'd be hard pressed to find any committee report that this board has authorized and received that has been not accepted. So there really is no guidance on how to do this. But I thought, as the body that charged the School Facilities Study Committee and set them on their way in August of '21, did this board create any unintentional consequences by not accepting the committee's final report? Can the report be used? Is it appropriate to make the report available to the public if we did not accept a report from the group that we charged? Does a no vote somehow negate the work of the committee? I assume and hope that the answer is no. But as we've talked before, the last time we built additions on a school, it didn't go all that well. So I think we need to be absolutely sure that we're doing things 100% by the book. So I think it would be the obligation of this board to officially confirm as much. So what I did is I had proposed a motion for this evening. My motion is that we table this discussion until our next regularly scheduled meeting, and that actually I added today because I realized we were down 2 important members of this group, and I thought it's important that we all talk about it. And that we ask you, Ryan, to pursue guidance for our next meeting from town council. And I had two questions that I'm asking. To determine whether the vote by the board that did not accept the Facility Study Committee report has by any chance created any unintended consequences. And two, to determine the appropriate vehicle under Robert's rules or any other formal rule that we can pursue a new motion to accept this report with conditions should the board deem it appropriate. So my motion is I would like to carry this over, table this discussion until next meeting, at which time we will know if there's no damage done to our process by not accepting that report that we charge them to provide us. And then in the event that we should further discuss this, determine the vehicle that we can use to put this issue forward for potentially another motion and accept it with conditions. That's my motion.
Okay. Well, I can, John, I can thank you for that. I can't answer the first of your questions was to determine if the vote by this board created any unintended consequences. I will look into it, but I can tell you.
And honestly, I'm trying to, I looked at this issue and, you know, I wrote this down because this has been bothering me. I want to make sure I didn't put anything in there. My whole career was about looking at an issue, gathering exact data that is correct, so that that data can be presented to an official party to balance out that data and come up with a conclusion. My thought is that, you know, whether there are aspects of that report that aren't what we like or may have some gaps in it, if the data that they collected, whether we're comfortable with it or not, is accurate data, I don't see why we didn't accept the report.
I can answer both. So you asked a question. Let me answer that.
Well,
one
and just
first.
so, just
But
for the
can I-
record,
can I
for the
answer-
record, there's a motion on the floor, but, okay.
There's a motion?
I made a motion.
I don't,
What's the motion?
I made a motion that we table this matter until next meeting, and that I ask you for the next meeting to get answers to those two questions.
Okay. There's a motion to table.
I would like to continue
But we
this
don't-
discussion
But
next
there's
week.
no motion to table, right? There's no,
I would like to make a motion to
Could
table
you-
this discussion.
could you just make the motion at the next meeting? Like, do we need a motion today?
As long as we can get it on the agenda for next week,
If
I'm
you'd
fine.
like to do something on the next agenda, I have no problem with that at all. It's hard to table something that we don't have to table. You know, there's no motion made to talk about anything. You know what I mean?
Well, I was
So-
on the agenda. I put it on the agenda to discuss. All I want to
Yeah,
do is
we can
ensure
move it
that
to
I want to
the next-
ensure that it will be discussed next week. That's all I'm
Okay.
asking.
But, you know, so just let me clear up a couple things that you touched on. I can touch on a few things here. So the first thing he said is determine if the vote taken by this board created any unintended consequences. The answer is, legally speaking, no. I mean, you have to remember that the School Facilities Committee was a advisory committee created by this body. They, you know, the work that they did, while very valuable, and we have repeatedly, all of us, we've worked on it. I attended many of those meetings. I saw how hard they worked, and all of that work that they've done is in that report. That report is available. It's a public document. It's on the Board of Education's website right now. Anyone can go on and read exactly what the Facilities Study Committee recommended. It is there. It's a living, breathing public document, and we're very proud of it. The vote taken by the board last meeting was not any way, you know.
What I was saying, Ryan, is that.
Can I finish that? Let me, because you talk, let me talk. So it's not in any way slighting the work that they've done. It was saying that we do not accept fully the recommendation of the committee, which is what we were asked to do by the chair.
The
chair-
vote, as I
Jen, can
recall, was that we
please
did
talk,
not
Jen?
accept, we did
Jen,
not accept
Jen,
it in its
you talked for a long
entirety.
time. Can I please talk?
Please.
Okay. So we are not taking away from that. We were asked, we all received a letter from the chair, and by the way, the Board of Education received a similar letter, okay? There was a lot of pressure for them to vote on it. And I felt, and I think some of us here felt, that we owed them an answer. And you heard, Lou was here. I asked Lou, are you asking us to vote exactly as it appears in this report? Everything. And that was what the chairman asked us to do. He asked us, he was here on the record, asking us to do that repeatedly in the letter, which is also available. I mean, so we are not disparaging the work that they've done. I mean, in fact, we talk about a survey that we're conducting right now, and you're on that email chain, John. The survey company, Great Blue Research, emailed us and said, what do we need to know about the school facilities? And I sent them one document, and I said, everything you need to know is in the school facilities study report. So that work that committee did lives on. We were asked to take a vote on whether or not a thumbs up, thumbs down, we agreed with the plan. I still don't agree with the plan. And just as you said yourself, you have problems with the plan. We were asked to take a vote on a yes or no, up or down. And sometimes we do have to make difficult decisions on this board. I cannot fully recommend the report, and so I can't support it. So if the chairman asks for an up or down vote,
Could you have recommended the report with conditions?
of course, and I would have loved to do that. If the chairman had asked me to do that, I would have done that. I would have absolutely wanted to. We didn't want to do a yes or no vote. The chairman said we owed them a vote, yes or no, and I said, you heard me. I said, Lou, are you sure you want everything in here? And he said, yes. And I said, okay. So that's where it came from. It's not, it's no way intended to slight the work of this committee that spent 2 years and put such valuable work into this report. There is so much value in what the School Facilities Study Committee did. I think it might have been lost in the vote because it ended up being, we had to get this behind us in order to move on to the next phase. The way I told Lou, I see that this is like a marathon or a track meet where the school facilities study, they did a lot of work, and now they're handing the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Education the baton, and we take their work and move on from there. But it does not invalidate the work that they did. And all that we were asked is, do we agree 100% with their recommendation? And the answer, I think, was no. So that's all that was, and it's certainly not to slight anyone on that committee or in the work that they did. It's just, we needed to move on from that, and we needed to move on and keep going, because we do need to get this work done.
So is there any reason to discuss this next week, next meeting?
It's up to you, it's up to the board, it's up to you.
Can I say something?
Sure.
The reason why I amended the agenda for that vote was because I felt after reading Lou's letter and him coming up and reading the letter at the previous meeting, and like I said, I missed a couple meetings when I was on vacation, and the time restraints the Board of Ed, and Dr. Charles said he's up against it for the 2024, and we had talked about possibly going with a survey company. I felt that we can't keep kicking the can down the road. So that's why I recommended we had the vote. I would have loved if Lou got up there and said, yes, you can vote for this with conditions, if it was not yes and no. To me personally, I feel, after reading that several times, to me that's about a 90% foundation.
I agree. And that's what bothers me about not accepting it with conditions.
Because he didn't allow us to.
I'll be honest with you, if I had this water in front of me last week and I wasn't speechless, literally, I would have said to Lou, are you willing to accept this if we modify it and understand that what you have there is essentially a solid concept? However, we all know that there's some holes in it, in costs and other areas. And would you be agreeable to negotiating an approval of this with exceptions, and
I asked him that, John. I was right here. You were here. I asked him that. The answer was no. I mean, we can go back and watch the meeting. It's there. I mean, that's what happened. I mean, at the end of the day, we have a report. It has so much value in it. That's the basis on what we're doing. Whether or not we accepted it in its entirety or not, we're still using it. It's still the blueprint that we have. So,
Even at the meeting we had the other day with the survey company, that was, made that, this is what we're going on. He didn't pull out the 50 other proposals
No.
we had.
that's the exact reason why I had trouble saying no to this issue last week, because I didn't think we did our due diligence. But if you recall, the next item on the agenda, I second the motion to do the survey.
Right.
Because I believe that both could get done together.
Right.
me too.
And so do I.
too. Yeah, we could have done that. If the chair had asked to approve the report conditionally, we would have approved the report conditionally. The chair asked us for a thumbs up or a thumbs down vote, and we gave the chair the vote that he asked for. And I believe the wording in the letter was, the facility study committee deserves this vote. I believe that's what he said in the letter. So we gave him the vote. I mean, it's unfortunate that that's
I
the
think that's
position.
the difference that a lot of us are saying too, is whether we approve of the report or we accept the report. I think all of us accept the report, but we don't approve of it, how it is written. Because all of us have said,
But weren't you one of the guys that approved the report that was presented here?
yes,
See, and honestly, we want to get out earlier tonight, and I'm not going to keep harping on it, but that's the part that I find a little problematic, is that two members of this group were part of the committee that voted in favor of that report, and I would have thought that this group might have fought a little harder to get a conditional approval to that document.
Can I speak on this? Because I attended the meetings. I was there when the vote took place. And I do want to say, and I specifically remember this, one of the problems that I have with this is that I remember asking, I said, the details can still be worked out when this vote occurred. And I was told, yes, we'll figure out the details, because I had some questions. Because one of the things that's in there, that is in the report, is talking about whether we're building to new, or the other language is what is it? Renovate
Renovate to new.
Renovate to new, or alterations. And so the committee, when they met, they never actually discussed the nuances, because there are some very big nuances between renovating to new and alterations. And when we're talking about school facility projects of this magnitude, what we're talking about is millions of dollars. And I remember seeing that the report that was presented said renovate to new. And I said, well, I think there's a conversation to have about alterations and maybe where we might be able to save some money by not fully renovating to new and by doing alterations. And at the time I was told, well, we can figure out those details later. And then all of a sudden that report that came to us didn't have that flexibility any longer to it. It was very rigid. And the facility study committee never had those conversations. They never talked about renovate to new, alterations, the dollar amount, the effect of bonding on that. So the report that was presented ultimately, I don't think was there's more to it. It's a very, very complicated.
Of course there's more to it. You can't move forward without firm architectural costs and everything else.
But we're moving forward. We are moving forward. We have a plan. We have everything we need to move forward. I mean, we can, like, to Bobby's point, we can accept the report as having, been, written and accepted into the town, but I don't approve of it. Maybe if the vote changes, I just don't think that, I told Lou, the town has no interest in the basement of the biz. There's no reason why the town should take over the basement of the biz. It's not a viable option for the town. So why would we accept that?
Let's say this. I feel that if we were asked, does the Board of Selectmen accept the report, we would all vote yes. That we acknowledge the work that was put into it, that it is a good starting point. Do we approve of it? I think the majority, like our vote was last time, would say no. We don't approve how it's written, but we're gonna accept it, and that's the basis for how we're gonna move forward, like they said with the survey. Take the report and work from there and make the changes.
And that's pretty much what I was saying in this
That was
document.
pretty much how we left that committee, was this is our best option, give or take on certain things, and move it forward, knowing the Board of Ed is gonna change something, the Board of Selectmen is
Sure.
gonna change something, you know, whatever else. It wasn't of how many people were on that committee. I don't think everyone said this is our perfect
So when the
plan.
chairman gave us an ultimatum, why didn't this discussion come up and say,
Yeah, maybe we should have said, just go with accept and not going off with him saying we.
And I think that's the
We should have
difference.
just said accept it.
If we
and
vote
on
to
it.
accept it, we can do it at the next
and
meeting.
honestly,
We-
I walked out.
I think we would vote 7-0.
What didn't sit well with me last week is I felt like we heard about the vote the night of. I didn't even realize till you said something, Sean. But it was kind of like, he said, take it or leave it, damn it. So we're gonna say, no, damn it. And I got the feeling that that was the tone and tenor of it, when it could have been a lot better.
It was an ultimatum.
But
He gave
did
an
we
ulti-
have to respond in kind, is what I said in
The
my
chair asked
notes.
for.
Out of
the chair
respect to him,
asked- yeah.
I'll give him an answer.
I mean, I don't know what you want. You want to say, no, we're not gonna give you the vote that you are telling us that you are asking for? I mean, the chair of the committee asked for a vote. We gave them the vote that he asked for. I mean, just because you don't like the answer, doesn't mean that it shouldn't have happened. You know,
But
it's,
I think Bobby's right with the language, and that's where I was. I'm not gonna approve because there were several things from the beginning that when we started talking about this that I did not like. That I don't think they were good for the town, and there's, you know, we discussed these individually. And when it came down to that, when we had the report, it meant to me that if I'm accepting this, if I approve this report, the other one was, if we approved it, we weren't going to the survey. It was a two-stage.
Oh, I know that, and that was what
And
is in his
that-
letter, and that's where I would have come back and said exactly what I said in this document. We understand the hard work that went into this. I think we can all agree that there are dollar amounts, fiscal amounts, and other pieces in this that are not there. We still, and I said this at meetings before, and I think I even said it last week, that we can successfully conduct a survey using that data, the two can work together.
John, can I just point out that before this vote took place, we had multiple long conversations that were going nowhere about this. We had to move on. We're rehashing the same thing when we've already moved on to the survey. We have a plan to move forward. We have to get going with the actual work.
So then the final piece of this, my question will be, and then we'll move on. Will we have this on the agenda next week to take a quick vote on whether we feel it important to change the language and quote-unquote accept it?
We can put on the agenda that we accept the report, but that we don't approve of the report. I have no problem with that motion.
Accept the report and consider it to be
The foundation.
foundation of future.
Absolutely.
Foundation for future.
I think I
Well-
see where you're coming
Well,
from, John,
here,
now.
but you know what? I want to be careful with that.
Right.
And this is why. Because the vote was, 5-4, 6-4 with one person missing when they actually took the vote. There is a significant portion, I think about half of our current Board of Education, that still is somewhat interested, or at least more so very interested in the one school. So to accept the school facilities study committee report, like you're suggesting, and base everything that we're doing on the survey off of, a swing vote, I think is a disservice. I think that ultimately there are still 3 options, and all 3 options are viable and on the table. And while the school facilities committee recommended one option, it in no way, invalidates the other 2 options, and that's why, that's why we're doing the survey. And that's why we're continuing to do our due diligence, because I'm not there 100% yet. I think we should probably close Gildersleeve, but I want to know what the town thinks. I still want to know what the residents, what the parents, what everyone in town thinks that is going to be having to pay with increased taxes for this proposal. I don't think we're there yet. I think the school facilities committee did an excellent job and did as much as they possibly could do. And now the ball is in our court, and the ball is in the Board of Education's court to see that work through. And that's all that we're doing, and that's what we're doing. So to use the school facilities report as the foundation, I think, is still premature, unless this board is ready to commit that we are going to close Gildersleeve and keep the biz. If everybody's on board with that the one school option is out, and that fixing up the schools, and keeping all the schools is out, and that's what we're doing, well, then I think that we could have a more serious conversation about accepting the report conditionally, because that's what you're talking about.
But we voted on contracting for the survey. You were there the other day. I think it's going to be very helpful to the town. The residents are going to get it. The way it's going to be, the survey's going to be held, from what they told us, it's going to be beneficial to everyone. To everyone in the town is going to get something out of this. So I think, and when I keep listening to you, John, is that you just feel like we slighted the work they did because we did not accept their proposal. When none of us did, everybody that spoke, when Ralph spoke, when both Michael spoke, the first thing everything said, we appreciate all the work you did. No one was disrespecting the work they did. It was just the way the report, no one could accept. I couldn't, there was 6 of us couldn't accept the report as it was. The survey's going to take this information we have, and we're going to present it and work from there, like we discussed, to get to the end result. What that end result's going to be, none of us know today. None of us know. The people on the building facilities committee don't know. So.
We can continue for the next meeting if you want to have a vote of some, on the agenda and continue this conversation. I just think at this point, we have exhausted this topic. I mean, we really have. I mean, no one is saying that we don't appreciate the work.
I don't, and that's not, you've heard my statement.
Yeah.
That's not at all what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I think the information is there, but the information has gaps. That is I've said all along, it's a foundational document to begin the discussion and move the discussion forward. Maybe the word, it's approve versus accept. I don't know if that's the difference. But I just feel like we didn't do our due diligence to try to work that motion into something that could be acceptable. And I'll look at the video again. You may be right that Lou was unwavering in his.
And in the letter. We have a letter and we have the document. I mean, so I think we have to move on. I mean, we can talk about it when we have a full board and we can take another vote, but I know my position on it hasn't changed. I can't accept the report in its entirety, the way it was written. I just can't. It has holes, and you said it yourself.
But
Brian, that's the difference, what we're saying. You accept the report, you don't approve of how it's written.
Okay.
We're saying.
And you just said accept the report in its entirety. I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that we.
But that's what we were asked to
Right.
do. That's what we were asked
And that's,
to do.
that's the bone that I'm struggling with, because we were asked and we were pushed. Did we have to push back in kind, is my question.
I mean,
You
We
know?
just answered his question the way he
No, I
asked
know,
it.
I get it,
Yeah, so
I get it.
It was, here's the ultimatum, yes or no.
Right.
And the majority said no. But it wasn't saying we don't approve of, or we don't accept the work that was done.
Put it on the agenda for a brief,
brief.
a motion. I'll even bring the motion to the table.
Okay. No,
And-
I think, you know, if it's going to, you know, make this board.
I'm,
Okay, do.
I'm,
Just to
I'm,
accept-
fe- not
but there's
fearful
no-
is a strong term, but I don't want at some point down the road for the actions that this board took to be perceived in a negative fashion. I think people should understand that most of that document, we concur with you, thank them for their
Yeah,
service,
we've
because we're
said that.
using
It's
it.
on the record. We've said it repeatedly, exhaustively. I mean, we're still talking about it. I don't, you know, so let's just move on for now, and we'll talk about it again, I guess, but, okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so the next item under new business, disbanding of the school facilities study committee.
How appropriate.
So,
Their charges up,
because their
correct?
charge is completed, we do need a motion to disband the school's facilities study.
I will
committee.
make a motion to disband the school facility study committee because their charge is up.
Second? Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second. I'm
So-
on it.
So I'll call for discussion. I just want to say, on the record, unequivocally, that we thank every single member of the School Facilities Study Committee for the countless hours of work that they put into this report. And it is, whether accepted, unaccepted, whatever you want to call it, we are using that report as the basis to go forward, as evidenced by what Great Blue Research is currently using as the foundation of the survey. So I want to thank every single member on there. They did a heck of a job. I know it's not easy, as evidence based on our long conversations. I mean, whenever you talk about something that affects so many people, people are always going to be passionate, and everybody at the end of the day just wants what's best for the town. We understand that, and I know I'm greatly appreciative, and I know as you all are too. So that's all I want to say.
The only question I have with regard to this is, as the process moves forward, I know with the survey, there's a possibility when the survey is complete of potentially doing a public hearing or two. I believe that's something, a service that they will provide us. If there are specific questions asked about information that is contained within that report, if we disband this committee, do we still have the ability to ask one or more of those individuals or the chairman of that group to give comments or explanation, if need be, as to how they came to the conclusions they came?
Of course, but I will also say that Dr. Britton can answer any of those questions as well. So we don't need, you know, I mean, that would be helpful, of course, and it does not, disbanding, all this does is say that their charge is complete.
It closes their charge,
It
I
just
understand
closes
that.
their charge, which,
There's no more scheduled meetings.
Right.
and that it's just a formality. I mean, and after today, I have thank you letters ready to go out in the mail tomorrow to every member to thank them for the work that they've done. So it's just part of the process. But yes, of course, they're available if they choose to answer questions. They're more than welcome.
Okay, I'm good.
So we got a second on
There's
Yeah, I
about a
second.
second. Any more further discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries unanimously. All right, the next item on the agenda is under new business, item B. And this is a revision to the fiscal year 2023-2024 non-union pay plan. This is due to our police officer. There's only one change. It's our police officer part-time private duty. So as some of you may know, we recently had Captain Millardo retire, And Captain Millardo, or former Captain Millardo, is what's part of the police private duty here in Portland. It's a program that we've had in the past where retired officers can come back and work private duty jobs at the private duty rate. And with that, there's a set rate. So currently, the rate is set at $45 an hour, and the town of that charges $90 an hour. So if Ron were to work a job, the town gets $90, and then 45 of that goes to Ron, so half, basically. And so as of October 1, 2023, that rate goes from $90 an hour to $95 an hour. So we would like to raise the police officer part-time private duty to be 50% of that, which comes out to $47.50, and then the police officer part-time would go from $30 to $31.67. So this is just to keep in line with the 50%, and this is similar to many towns that have the same policy. And in fact, Ron just told me today that apparently Middletown is paying 60. So we're getting a bargain here. I want everyone to be aware of that. So I do want, if someone could make a motion to approve the plan, but effective as of October 1, 2023, that is when the new payroll goes into effect.
I'll make the motion to approve the amended pay plan effective October 1st.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you both. Any discussion on this?
I did.
John second.
All right. Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. All right, the next item is item C under new business, revisions to the non-union personnel manual. And our attorney, Joe McQuaid, is here with us this evening. Joe did send me a few changes at the end. I don't know, Joe, do you remember them enough so that we could just put them in here? Would you like to come up and just so we don't have to do it again since you're here?
Makes sense to me. These revisions are consistent with some of the changes that were made to the Public Works contract, and we're making them available to the non-union people. Here, in terms of my edits, I think there was, one second. Section 2.4, subsection A, the addition to that says, and criminal history background check if applicable. I would just eliminate criminal history and leave it as background check, because there may be opportunities where we want a financial background check for important positions handling money. So
I thought that was good. Good, thank you.
more generic there. I think there was a typo for the it was section 8, if I remember correctly. In any event, there's a typo that says 2003 as opposed to 2023. That is reflected in here. That's not a big deal. And then in section 11.
I found it. It's under sick leave on page 14. I think it says July 1. It says 203. Should say 2023.
Yeah.
It's not correct then, right? Because usually they show struck out, and you strike it out, you just left it as 2.
And then in section 11.10, vacation pay, in subsection B, we had originally put in and regular part-time employees, and part-time employees, regular part-time employees who are employees who work over 30 hours but not full-time, they're dealt with in subsection E. So I just eliminated from subsection B any mention of and regular part-time employees. And then in subsection E, I changed, first it says for regular part-time employees, and then I added who have completed 6 months of continuous employment, which is consistent with B. It says vacation days shall be prorated according to the normal workday and shall follow I put in the accrual schedule and rules. So accrual and rules between schedule, and outlined in, and then the rest of the sentence is the same. So those were my changes. I think if you're good with those, then we're ready to vote on this. If anybody has any questions about it, I'm happy to try and answer them.
And I have all those already, Sharon, so thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Joe on this, or myself? Michelle, I think, did a pretty good job highlighting on the first page exactly what each one is changing.
Mhm. Thank God for track changes.
There's no questions. Is there a motion to approve as amended?
I'll make a motion to approve the revisions to the non-union personnel manual as amended.
And I'll second that.
Any additional discussion? Seeing none, call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. Thank you, Joe. All right, the next item is item D under new business, refunds of excess payments. Bobby?
Make a motion for a refund of excess payment, ACAR Leasing Limited, $309.45.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries.
Motion for a refund of excess payment, JP Morgan Chase Bank, NA, $502.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries.
Motion for a refund of excess payment, Honda Lease Trust, $154.05.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries.
Motion for a refund of excess payment, Kevin and Trudy O'Connor, $46.16.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries.
Motion for a refund of excess payment, CCAP Auto Lease Limited, $218.16.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. Thank you all. The next item is status and committee reports. I just have couple updates, actually maybe just one. I wanted to update the board on an email or a conversation that I've gotten asked quite a bit about. And I think I did mention it here, and it's on what is the town doing to get pickleball courts in the town of Portland. It's probably one of the most frequently asked questions that I get, and people are very passionate about pickleball. And we recently found that out. And so I want to thank Dr. Britton and the Board of Education, because I reached out to Dr. Britton over the summer, after a number of these requests, to see if it would be possible to convert maybe a couple of the tennis courts into a hybrid tennis court, pickleball court setup, as they have in other towns. I know East Hampton has something similar right now as well. And so the Board of Education did approve of that recently. They said, have at it, basically. So we can get a pickleball court if we want to. So I asked Andy, our Parks and Recreation Director, to look into how much it would cost to, essentially what we would have to do is get some lines painted at the courts, and then we can get a temporary movable net, because the pickleball courts and tennis nets are at different heights. And so really it looks like to do 2 pickleball courts would be approximately $2,000. So it's not a ton of money that we could do, and I think that what we should do is to have a pilot program. going, at some point on this, because the one thing that I would worry, and I don't want to create a noise problem for the neighbors. And so I'd like to see how it works, because I have read some articles on the noise that.
It's loud.
It's loud, and so I don't want to create any problems with any neighbors and whatnot.
We'd be
But-
talking about Butler Lane, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, obviously we want to.
Someone there complains not about the lights being on.
So anyways, I think it's worth exploring, but I just wanted to put that little caveat in that, we do want to be mindful of the noise, but I think if you guys approve of that, we'll continue exploring that.
Yes, sounds good.
That sounds good.
Okay, that's all I have tonight. So. Ralph?
Okay, I'll start with water and sewer. A few things from water and sewer. They did discuss the GZA report on the test wells that they had drilled, and obviously all the information coming back from in the report was very favorable. So now they're just waiting for next steps, which I believe is GZA will come back with further recommendations, right? Further recommendations. I think I saw them out yesterday. I think it was yesterday. They were out. I know they talked about a service leak somewhere on Main Street, and they were digging and doing work on Main Street yesterday. And the other thing they talked about was when they talked about it was the work was going to start on Perry Avenue to do the water mains, redo water mains on Perry Avenue. And they indeed were also out there yesterday working hard on that. So that has started. They are talking about, they're working through all the information and they need in order to do work on Hilltop. And I have a note that it was end of September they were talking about doing it, so that's not right.
They're already setting up the equipment, and they're moving forward with that. Yep.
Okay. And I think the only thing, let's see, with regards to sewer, I know they were dealing with a control panel problem, and they're working on getting all set to do the work on the clarifier in the system. So that's a water and sewer. With regards to EDC, they did present the business of the quarter award to Chris Cody's business, or businesses. I don't know what we consider it since he has so many different parts of it. So that was very nice. And they're obviously looking for anyone that wants to put a business forward for the next quarter. I think it's to the end of this month they will accept the next quarter's business of the quarter. They talked a little about how they could further engage businesses, get them involved, strategies to get the businesses more engaged with the town and getting them involved with the events that occur in town. So they talked about a couple of things they were going to look into. And as usual, we get an update on the town projects, and things are progressing very well at Brainerd. Was one of the main ones we talked about. So that's EDC, and not much with Park and Rec, but what they mentioned about Park and Rec is that there is the 5K, the annual 5K, on October 21st. And they also talked briefly about trick-or-treating on Main Street on October 27th. They did start going into details of talking about the capital improvement plan, which does need some updating. It's been a while since that's been really fully looked at, so they began that process. So those are my updates.
Great. Have you all registered for the 5K yet? I know I have. Okay. I'll see.
Have you?
I have. Yeah.
I'll be on the utility one following.
And actually, Ralph, you touched on a few things. One, I do want to mention our project, our connectivity grant is moving really fast. You may see the sidewalks. I mean, they are moving down High Street now. They've already done Freestone. We were just at Riverside Street today. As you may recall, we had some interest in getting those sidewalks done. And so Eversource now has identified, where they can place the pole. We were down there with the property owner, who I want to thank him again for working with the town. We do, not only do we have to move a pole, we have to take a tree down too as well, but that is moving ahead, and great to see that progress continue. And speaking of Halloween on Main Street, I do want to touch on, we have our new Youth and Family Services Director, who is Courtney Fitzke. And Courtney just started last Thursday. Actually, I meant to invite her this evening, but I will invite Courtney to an upcoming meeting so that she can introduce herself. Courtney is no stranger to this type of work. She was in the East Hampton Town Hall working in prevention over in East Hampton previously. And she's also a Portland resident, and she comes with a great deal of experience. So we think she's going to be a good fit here in the town of Portland. We're excited to have her, and I already told her that Halloween on Main Street is very important. So we have to get going with that. I said that's your first task, is to make sure that all the businesses and are ready to go, because we're already getting emails from businesses on that as well.
I have one thing. I don't know if you want to hear or our discussion.
So why don't we move it? Is it a question or is it a statement?
No, it's a statement.
Maybe here.
Before here, I was at the fair committee meeting, and everything is moving ahead for the fair this year.
Thank
Wow.
you. Yeah.
You know, weather permitting, everything is on schedule, and they plan on having full fair.
Good. Looking forward to it. Let's get some dry weather, please.
Yeah.
And let me thank them, because that's a lot of work. We know they're working hard. All right. I think that's it, unless anybody else has committee reports. All right, we'll move on to public comment. Is there anyone? Hi, Andrea is here. Andrea, just name and address, please. Thank you.
Hi, Andrea Alfano, 3 Plum Rose Court. So I guess we'll just rehash just for a minute. The school facilities. I just have a couple of comments, and there were a lot of words thrown around here today, acceptance versus approval. So I just want to be clear that I have Lou Pear's letter, and just the last sentence of the first paragraph says, as part of board resolution and the Portland Town Charter, it is up to both groups to follow through with a vote to either accept or reject the recommendations of this study. And I heard a couple of you say, you accept it, but you don't approve it. So now we're using these words. He clearly said accept, and I just think, I would just like to say for the record, I just feel that the acceptance for the consideration, and I know Ryan and all of you have said, and 2 of you sat on that committee and all the hard work that went into it, but to accept it to show the recognition doesn't mean that you approve of everything that's there, and that gets back to this condition thing, but accepting it, that so at least our volunteers and the people that spent 2 years working on that committee feel that it isn't all just negated. And I know that it was put forth to you and sort of your backs, you discussed it a lot, and then he's saying vote or not, but acceptance versus approval, to accept it. The bottom line is, you are the authority, so in accepting it, and maybe you don't approve, but you're not really probably going to start from scratch anyway. I think the survey is great. I think public being informed and educated and having the ability to speak on this is great, but I sure think that aspects of that plan are going to come into that survey or be part of the discussion. So it's not starting from scratch, and so I just, it's my opinion, and it's a comment for your consideration that, and I heard some of you say acceptance. You don't really reject it because so much that is in there, it is good. So it's just another thought maybe to what John's trying to bring forward, to think about that again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Sure. Hold on, this is what I get for closing Zoom out for a second. Dave.
Dave Murphy, 40 Carousel Drive. I was actually on the facility study committee, and I've had some comments I said before, and I just want to say a real briefly that the committee did a ton of work. Lou and Dr. Brickman did a ton of work on the sidelines with tons of focus groups. But there were a few things that came out. Number one, the focus groups, about half of them wanted 1 elementary school, and about half of them wanted 2 elementary schools. So that was our first indication that this town wants us to explore two different options. Second thing is the vote that we took was not unanimous. It was 5-3. And one of the person admitted he was on the fence. So if he voted the other way, it would have been 4-4 tie. So although the plan was brought forward to the Board of Selectmen, it was not a unanimous vote. My personal opinion, and I think there are many others on this team, was this is some great foundational work that was done. Said, hey, we started with 12 options, or I think it was even more. We got it down to 2. Now it's time to take that foundational work of what we've done and run with it and further investigate which one is the better option for our town, with all the different nuances of what's this going to cost, what's this going to impact, where should our kids go, because the tech specs is also going to play a vital role in where we decide, or what we decide, because we may not want to put certain grades in certain schools and things. So I just wanted to make that statement there. Records, I know there's been a lot of conversation about it.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
I don't think that's it, public comment. So, all right, we'll move on to Board of Selectmen general informal discussion. Does anyone have anything?
Yeah, I got a couple things, just checking on a couple projects. Russell,
The Russell, the water project is out to bid as of Friday. Thank you for reminding me. There's a lot of these things that I mean to update on, and then you remind me. But that is out to bid. We're excited on that, and hopefully hopefully we get some favorable bids on that.
the other one is, I think you touched on it before, a couple of weeks, or maybe a little longer. Brownstone Ave, I know there was a tank they found.
Yes, so Brownstone Avenue had another tank that was filled with tar. I think it was about 2,000 gallons of tar that we discovered. Every time we would turn around, we would find another tank. Who knew, remediation could be so dirty? But what happened was that by the time they found that this tank, the tar, it had warmed up. It was no longer winter, and the tar was not, I'm told it was not liquid, but it was not quite solid either. And so because of that, there was no easy way to get the tar out of the tank. Or when I say easy, I should say cheap. And there was no affordable option. And so we had a few options. One, we could leave it until winter and wait till it solidifies again, and then I guess break it out into pieces. So they could do that. Or this was the option that they presented that I thought was at least worth exploring, was to see, and I am skeptical about this, but to see if they could use the tar to cap some of the site. And Public Works has dropped off some chip seal, and they're going to see if this tar works. But they wanted to wait till the Brownstone Discovery Park closed for the season, because apparently it may smell. So we will see.
And then it'll start to solidify again.
So they're testing on a very small portion of this. It's just a trial to see if it works. If it doesn't work, we're waiting till winter, because it's just not worth paying the extra money for it. So that's all.
We don't have a warm winter.
Yeah. So anyways, excuse me. That's the progress on that. ECR, the Enviro is the contractor. They will be on site next week doing that testing. So that's where we're at with that.
What about with regards to that? I thought you had a conversation at some point where it was suggested to the town that they should clean up, like along the fence and that garage, fixing the windows in the garage, so it makes it a little more presentable going forward. Do we come to any decision on what we want to do with that?
We haven't done anything with that yet. And yes, we could do some work. There's work to be done there, but it all comes back to the RFP that we will be issuing again for this property.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can dress it up a little bit, but we'd have to allocate funds for that right now. We didn't budget for that, so any work that we would do down there, we could ask Public Works to clean some of the vegetation and all that from the fencing. It's probably not a bad idea, but we don't have to do that, I would say, until we issue that RFP.
No.
Yeah. But yes, I don't think that's a bad idea at all. We want this to be as attractive as possible when we issue that.
You can't miss that building. It's what, about 1.5 feet off the road?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Quick things. The fuel pumps at Public Works, they're online.
the fuel pumps are all online. And not only are they online, the cards, the readers are working, everything's working. Oh, I should also mention Asplin's here this week doing tree trimming. They just took Public Works assisted taking down some very large trees on Penfield Hill. There's a list about, I think, 30 trees that they had, and they're here all week. They're trying to get as many of those trees done as possible. But not only is the fuel pumps up, but the fire alarms are up as well. And I submitted this, and I want to thank this board for all your help on pushing for those fire alarms at the Public Works garage, because we never had those alarms for 30 years. We were living on, it was dangerous, it really was, and so because we did such a good job, I submitted this to KERMA, our insurance agency, as one of our risk limiting options for the year, so we could win a prize for this. I'll keep you posted.
How about a discount?
And I think the other, it's a terrible thing, but we should give credit to the town that had the fire. What was it?
East Hampton.
I mean, I think that was evidence of what can happen, you know?
I should have referenced that in the application.
Maybe they write them too.
How about the generator at Company 3 Firehouse?
That is being installed, is it all
It's
done?
up and running.
It's up and running?
The only thing they have left to do is take the old generator out, and we're waiting on the bid to be approved or go out for the tank system, the propane tanks.
And actually, you reminded me of another, we got a lot going on. I want to put this on your calendar. October 23rd at 11 a.m. will be the ribbon cutting at our senior center, on the upgrades at the senior center. So,
At what time?
11 a.m. And it was funny because I gave the Department of Housing some potential dates of when we could do it, and they said, well, actually, those don't work. The commissioner wants to come on the 23rd, and I said the 23rd it is. So the commissioner of DOH is coming as well, so we're excited about that. The last thing that needed to be done at the senior center was have the cabinets painted. We did get approval. We didn't need to replace the cabinets ultimately. They're fine, but I thought that a coat of paint would really dress it up because everything else is brand new. So the cabinets kind of stuck out a little bit, and that's why there's a little bit of a delay. We could have already been finished, but we wanted the cabinets to look nice as well. So mark your calendars. Thank you.
Like that.
And remind me again that when we talked about the solar panels at the landfill, we have submitting another bid, request,
Yes.
whatever. When is that's end of the year, or was that sooner than that?
No, it's end of the year. It's submitted now. So the deadline was last week, I
Right, I
believe.
knew it
on
was-
that.
I knew the
I think
turnaround
it was
was quick.
the 14th or something like that, where they
Yeah.
had to. And all Green Skies was submitting on the town's behalf
Mhm.
a proposal that was a little bit more competitive than the proposal that they submitted on our behalf in the spring.
Right.
The financial incentive to the town was exactly the same, but due to some additional federal credits, they were able to reduce the cost of, make it 10% more attractive. So
Andy had mentioned that when he talked about it, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a better, we hope that we get selected, and if not, we'll try again in the spring again. But, you know, I don't want to get anyone's hopes up because I thought we were pretty competitive the last time. And I'm not getting, I don't want to get my hopes up either. But we're going to make it happen. It's just a little patience. So, thanks. Good?
Good.
The only other, it's not really a follow-up question, but just to remind everybody, tomorrow night is the Paley Awards.
Oh, thank you, John. Yes. The Ralph Paley Spirit of Portland
That's
Award.
like 6:30, I think?
Yes.
I hit on
And
my-
we want to congratulate, it's public, right? The winners are public right now? We can s-
I don't know.
Then I'm not going to say it's not public, but we'll congratulate them next meeting.
It's 6:30.
So, yep, 6:30.
I had
So,
already put it in the calendar
Yep.
for 6.
see. Good. Perfect. Thank you, John. All right. With that, I don't have any follow-up items, so I think we can move on to executive session. So with that, we'll end the regular meeting. We'll close the Zoom and the online. And thank you all for coming. So do I have a motion to enter executive session?
So moved.
For the purposes of strategy on collective bargaining and invite our attorney, Joe McQuaid, in as well.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you both. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, great. Thank you and have a good night, everyone.
Ralph, I got.